Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be looking over a power station that I've been reviewing for quite some time. I have had this one at home, testing it out in all the crazy ways that you can test a power station for both preparedness and van life, and now it's time that we have a few slight conversations about this power station. Let me show you what it looked like whenever it came in the mail, and then we'll talk about what I've been doing ever since. Okay guys, we have a new power station to try out. We're going to be trying out this one, unboxing it, seeing what all the specs are, and then also how it's set up. I do like that it has a little section here that talks about the highlights, including 3 ways of recharging through AC, car charging, or solar panels. It has an LED screen that shows the battery power, the available time in hours, and also the power consumption in watts. And it has a jump starter port on here also. So this one's gonna be a little different than some of the others we've tried. Let's take it inside and check it out. Okay, this is the power station right here. And as you can see, it's a pretty hefty guy. And I've been using this in a variety of different ways, anything from testing out my Road Pro equipment to testing out heaters and all sorts of larger draw items to see both large and small what it can do. And I've been pretty impressed by the overall output of this particular power station. It has a few cool features that I'm about to show you, and then we can get into what it's been able to do and also one negative thing that I found when using this. I want to be honest with you guys always on this channel, so I've taken many months to review this and really put it through the ringer to see if what I was experiencing with it would be true throughout as it ages, and it's aged extremely well, and so I've been very excited about this one, and this guy is a big boy. Okay, this power station is the VTOMAN or VTOMAN power station. We start off with the DC port right here, and then we have our USB ports, and then our AC regular standard plugs. There are 3 of these. There are 4 of these, including one that is a quick charge. And then on the DC side, you have a DC as well as a couple of little 12-volt outputs that can be plug and play. Now up here we have the USB-C area. So these are in different areas, but they are both controlled by this single button. Each of the zones has a yellow button where you can place your finger over it and it activates a different area. For example, AC turns right on. When it does, you hear the motor inside of the fan instantly turn on to regulate the actual power station so that it is ready to go for whatever you're going to put through it here. Same thing, we're going to turn it off. You just touch it and it instantly, a little piece right here, disengages. Now on the screen, we'll look for the USB, which we have the Type-C and USB, which lights up right here. It tells us the battery capacity and how many hours it could run a device based on how much output is coming out right here, which right now is 0 because we're not really doing too much. And then the same thing applies for the DC. It just highlights it at a different portion of the screen. All of those things are pretty standard on all power stations that I've tested out. And as you could hear the fan kick on, the fan kicks on, and if it's not needed to be used, it doesn't take away any power, but it prepares it in case you are going to be needing some power, and thus if the fan needs to cool everything off on the inside. And that's kind of how the overall power station works. Now this power station can be charged from my van, from a wall, or from solar. And I have connector cables that go with all of those things that I had already that I can just plug and play. However, this did come with a small pouch of cords so that I would have all the things that I need for this power station specific, in addition to a nice little handy bag to keep it all in. Now, one thing that I noticed that was a little bit different about this power station than others is it does have a semi-flat top where you could place something on top of it. However, it has this big handle. This handle can, I believe, be removed. It has some screws in here, but then it would make it extremely hard to pick it up because there are no side handles. So realistically, I end up picking it up from right here, which limits me being able to stack this power station in a power stack or place things on top of it for easy, quick storage. However, with that said, if I'm charging GoPro batteries, they do fit right here and right under this little area. So that kind of gives you an idea of the size of the handle itself. So the next question is, how heavy is it? Well, this is actually a beefier power station. So when I pick it up, this is one that, yeah, you could get a good workout with, but it's kind of very heavy if you're a little bit less on the strengthy side when it comes to loading things up. Definitely a lot of pull through this part of your elbows and arms just to lift it, and you need some good hand strength for this one because it is a weighty power station. But that brings me to another part, and that is when we pick it up and turn it to the back, we actually have an emergency light back here, and it's kind of neat. We can engage it by pushing this little button right here, and it has a regular or a brighter or a brightest, and then it also flashes for security. Now, if you are using this in your preparedness kit at your base camp or your tiny home or just your regular sized home, this could be great if you're needing to alert someone as to where you are in the home, if you're stuck in your home. It could also be used for roadside assistance. You could place this out close to your van to let people know, hey, I'm in an emergency state, I need help. And you could use those strobing lights. And that's why they realistically put these on these particular items so that they can be used in those emergency scenarios. However, I've noticed the dimmest setting on this one is actually a really nice like brightness for in my van if I didn't have overhead lights to just kind of illuminate the area if I needed to get up in the middle of the night and like use the restroom or I dropped something or something like that. So when it comes to larger power stations, I've compared a lot of different kinds of power stations and I found both pros and cons with each and every one of them. This one overall, very beefy. As I've said, it's good for a really durable power station. It's been banged up quite a bit while it's been here at base camp and it has stood through some pretty big dings. Also though, one thing I did notice is they do not have a DC plug cover. That is a personal thing for me, but it also is something that has a lot of like backing to my personal theory. Let me explain. So whenever you have a DC plug that does not have a cover, what happens is if you're plugging your refrigerator or something like that into it constantly, it's fine. But if you aren't plugging something into it constantly and you're pulling things back out, what it does is it slowly files down the inner portions, and as you're in the great outdoors and you have those dewy mornings or those humid days, little tiny bits of moisture gets in there where that is shaving across that hole and it starts to oxidize and turn it into a little bit of rust. Now, a lot of people have suggested here on the channel, just take a little piece of steel wool and clean it right on out and it's fine. But I tell you it is not fine because I have done that on some of the power stations, and ultimately I've noticed that the DC plug ends up failing in the ones that they do not protect almost twice as quickly as those who they do. So a personal rule of thumb is I prefer a power station that takes that into consideration, because in a van you need to take all of those things into consideration so that you're buying something that does last longer. Now again, I've tested this out here at my base camp and it's been no problem, and I'm sure it would do just fine in the van and I could probably purchase a secondary cover. However, those are things that I really wish they would have considered when putting this together if they are wanting van people and people who are in the travel world to purchase these, because I think that it's just a little forethought into a glimpse into their world on protecting something, because these are not the least expensive of your journey items by any means. So there's that. But there's one other thing. Ironically, also in the DC port, this is something that I learned that I found out other people were also experiencing that I wanted to tell you guys about. So what happens with a refrigerator is you plug it in, and after you do, it regulates to the temperature that you selected, usually in the 30s or 40s. And so that means it's going to kick on for a while until it gets there. And then once it gets there, it just has to maintain that, which is way easier, which means that the compressor goes on and off and on and off, which means that whenever your refrigerator has gotten to that regulation place, then it doesn't have to run all the time. And my personal Set Power fridge, as well as the other Set Power and even the Alpicool, would all do this. So it's not just one brand that does this, it's every one. And so by doing that, it backs off of the amount that it pulls for a vast majority of every hour. What happens, unfortunately, is with this particular power station, if there's not a constant draw on it, it sees that it isn't needed. So it powers that part down, which means that your fridge could go off in the night if you're relying on this, or during a hot day. If it's not running constantly, it could go off and all your food could spoil. Now, again, is this a deal breaker? I don't think it is if you're using it for other things, but I definitely probably would not be powering my refrigerator with this particular power station. Now, I came upon this and thought, oh, it's a fluke thing. But the more that I looked into this, the more I noticed several people had mentioned that they experienced the same exact thing, and a few of them had even mentioned that the company had gotten back with them and told them that this is just kind of what happens. And so I wanted to share that with you all so that you could be in the know of this very honest review, and so you would know that this is a great power station for so many things. Just maybe not a van fridge. Now, the reality that most people face when they're looking for a power station is that they want to have something that they can do all the things that are in their space, be it for preparedness or for van life. And I would say that this would be a great complementary power station for someone who needs a lot. I can literally power all of my batteries, my electric kettle, my computer, a couple of lights, and everything on this all at the same time. And that is great. And I love that the display tells me how many expected hours of use I could have based on the things that are plugged in, because it makes it very user-friendly. However, knowing that one little thing, I would say, hey, this is a great one for all the things that I'm doing, but let me have one dedicated power source just for my fridge that I can just kind of have plugged into my van for through charge, and then direct feed into the fridge, so I don't really have to worry about taking away from it with other stuff. And I think that that's where this and a complementary power station would come in handy. Now, if they ever do fix that problem with the DC port, then I could definitely see this being a full-timer's dream, because it is durable and great and very robust when it comes to the amount of power that it delivers and also the user-friendly format of the design. However, this is kind of just where I'm at with this one right now. I know that this isn't going to answer everyone's questions about the VTOMAN, but I'm still a work in progress with it. And again, I've powered all sorts of cool things around my base camp and on the road already, but it's still a work in progress of figuring out just what else I can make it do. And I love that. But I hope this is helpful to you guys, and that you'll remember, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. Finding power and being honest about what we can use it for is the best time when you're on the road, because it takes away the guesswork of what can be plugged and played and what can't.